On June 17, 2010, the world of cybersecurity changed forever when a small antivirus company in Belarus made a discovery that would redefine warfare in the digital age. What began as a routine investigation into mysterious computer crashes would soon unveil the most sophisticated cyber weapon ever created, a digital virus that had been secretly sabotaging Iran's nuclear program for years. The story of Stuxnet begins not with its discovery, but with its careful conception in the shadows of international intelligence agencies. While the exact timeline remains classified, security experts believe that development of this unprecedented malware began as early as 2005, emerging from the deepest corridors of American and Israeli intelligence services. The Bush administration, facing mounting pressure over Iran's nuclear ambitions, sought an alternative to traditional military action. The solution they envisioned was revolutionary, a weapon made of code that could reach across oceans and physically destroy enemy infrastructure without firing a single shot. For years, this digital phantom operated in complete secrecy, infiltrating the most secure industrial systems in Iran's nuclear facilities. The malware was designed with surgical precision, targeting only specific industrial control systems manufactured by Siemens, the same systems that controlled the centrifuges at Iran's Natanz uranium enrichment facility. Unlike traditional computer viruses that merely disrupted data or crashed systems, Stuxnet was engineered to cause actual physical damage while remaining completely invisible to its targets. The sophistication of Stuxnet was unprecedented in the history of malware. It exploited not one, but 4 different zero-day vulnerabilities, previously unknown security flaws that are incredibly valuable and difficult to discover. The malware was digitally signed with stolen certificates from legitimate companies, allowing it to appear as trusted software to security systems. Most remarkably, it was designed to spread through air-gapped networks, systems that are completely isolated from the internet for maximum security. The virus propagated through USB drives, CD-ROMs, and other removable media, seeking out its specific targets with the patience of a hunter stalking prey. The weapon's operation was a masterpiece of deception. When Stuxnet finally reached its intended targets, the programmable logic controllers, PLCs, that governed Iran's gas centrifuges, it deployed a dual-pronged attack. First, it would record normal operational data from the centrifuges during their regular functioning. Then, it would subtly manipulate the centrifuge speeds, causing them to spin too fast or too slow, ultimately destroying the delicate machinery. All the while, the malware played back the previously recorded normal readings to operators, creating the illusion that everything was functioning perfectly. Iranian technicians watched their equipment fail repeatedly, unable to understand why their centrifuges were breaking down at an alarming rate. The psychological impact on Iran's nuclear program was immense. Engineers and scientists at Natanz found themselves in a nightmarish scenario where their equipment failed without explanation. Centrifuges that should have lasted for years were breaking down within months. The carefully calibrated uranium enrichment process, which requires precise control of centrifuge speeds, became unreliable and dangerous. According to later analysis, approximately 1,000 centrifuges at the facility were destroyed by the malware, setting back Iran's nuclear program by an estimated 2 years. The first hints that something was amiss came from an unexpected source. International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, inspectors, who were permitted to monitor Iran's nuclear facilities under international agreements, began noticing unusual patterns in the facility's operations. They observed that Iran was replacing centrifuges at a rate far higher than normal, and that the quality of uranium being produced was inconsistent with proper operations. These observations, detailed in confidential reports, would later prove crucial in understanding the scope of the cyber attack. Meanwhile, in the digital realm, the malware continued its silent work. Stuxnet was programmed with an expiration date, designed to become inactive after a certain period to avoid detection. However, the operators of the cyberweapon found their success so compelling that they updated and redeployed the malware multiple times between 2007 and 2010. Each iteration became more sophisticated, incorporating new attack vectors and improved stealth capabilities. The curtain began to fall on this covert operation in early 2010, when a critical programming error changed everything. During one of the updates to the malware, the attackers inadvertently removed a crucial restriction that had previously prevented Stuxnet from spreading beyond its intended targets. The virus began propagating uncontrollably, jumping from the isolated Iranian nuclear facilities to computers around the world. This digital pandemic spread across networks in Indonesia, India, and other countries, infecting systems that had nothing to do with nuclear enrichment. The discovery that would change everything came from an unlikely source. Virus Blokada, a small cybersecurity company based in Minsk, Belarus, received a call from a client experiencing mysterious computer problems. The client's machines were rebooting repeatedly, crashing without explanation. Sergei Ulasin, a malware researcher at the company, took on the case with no idea that he was about to uncover one of the most significant intelligence operations in modern history. Working from his modest office in Belarus, Ulasin began analyzing the suspicious code that was causing the crashes. What he found defied everything he thought he knew about malware. The code was enormous, far larger than typical viruses, and incredibly complex. It contained components that seemed designed to interact with industrial control systems, a target that was virtually unheard of in the cybersecurity community at the time. Most malware focused on stealing data or disrupting computer networks, but this virus appeared to be designed to control physical machinery. As Ulasin dug deeper into the code, he realized he was looking at something unprecedented. The malware contained detailed knowledge of Siemens industrial control systems, including proprietary programming languages and communication protocols that should have been impossible for outsiders to obtain. The code also contained what appeared to be a sophisticated command and control system, allowing remote operators to update the malware and monitor its progress. This was not the work of amateur hackers or cybercriminals. This was a state-sponsored operation of extraordinary sophistication. On June 17, 2010, Ulasin made the decision that would bring Stuxnet to light. He contacted Microsoft to report the zero-day vulnerabilities he had discovered, and his company prepared to publish their findings. The initial analysis was limited. Virus Blokada was a small firm without the resources to fully understand what they had found, but they recognized the significance of their discovery. The publication of Virus Blokada's initial findings on July 10, 2010, sent shockwaves through the cybersecurity community. The press release described a sophisticated malware that exploited previously unknown vulnerabilities in Microsoft Windows and seemed designed to target industrial control systems. Cybersecurity researchers around the world began obtaining samples of the malware and conducting their own analyses. The response from the global cybersecurity community was swift and comprehensive. Symantec, one of the world's leading antivirus companies, assembled a team of their best researchers to analyze the malware. Kaspersky Lab, the Russian cybersecurity firm, launched their own investigation. Microsoft issued emergency patches for the vulnerabilities that Stuxnet exploited. The collaborative effort to understand this new threat represented one of the largest mobilizations of cybersecurity expertise in history. As researchers delved deeper into Stuxnet's code, the true scope of the operation became clear. The malware contained multiple components, each designed for specific tasks in the attack chain. There were modules for spreading through networks, components for evading detection, and specialized payloads designed to sabotage industrial equipment. The code contained references to specific dates and locations that suggested detailed knowledge of the target facilities. Most remarkably, the malware was designed to target only specific configurations of Siemens equipment, indicating that the attackers had intimate knowledge of Iran's nuclear infrastructure. The technical sophistication of Stuxnet was staggering. The malware used advanced rootkit techniques to hide its presence from antivirus software and system administrators. It employed multiple methods of propagation, including infection through USB drives, network shares, and even printer spools. The code was optimized for different versions of Windows and included fallback mechanisms in case primary attack vectors failed. The level of engineering required to create such a weapon suggested a development team of dozens of expert programmers working for years. International media coverage of Stuxnet began in earnest during the summer of 2010. technology journalists struggled to explain the implications of a cyber weapon that could physically destroy industrial equipment. The story captured public imagination partly because it seemed to come from the realm of science fiction. The idea that computer code could reach across the internet and destroy physical machinery in a foreign country was both fascinating and terrifying. The Iranian government's response to the discovery of Stuxnet was complex and evolving. Initially, officials downplayed the impact of the cyber attack, with some claiming that their nuclear facilities had not been significantly affected. Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad made public statements minimizing the damage, describing the attack as a minor inconvenience rather than a serious setback. However, internal documents and later revelations would show that the impact was far more severe than Iranian officials publicly admitted. As the investigation into Stuxnet continued, cybersecurity researchers began to piece together the timeline of the attack. They discovered that the malware had been active for years before its discovery, with the earliest samples dating back to 2007. The virus had undergone multiple iterations, with each version becoming more sophisticated and effective. The attackers had learned from their successes and failures, refining their weapon over time. The forensic analysis of Stuxnet revealed fascinating details about its operation. The malware was programmed to remain dormant if it did not find its intended targets, reducing the risk of accidental discovery. It included a sophisticated communication system that allowed it to report back to its controllers about successful infections and the status of its mission. The code contained what appeared to be kill switches and self-destruct mechanisms, allowing the operators to terminate the operation if necessary. One of the most remarkable aspects of Stuxnet was its surgical precision. Despite infecting computers around the world, the malware only activated its destructive payload when it encountered the specific industrial control systems used at Iran's nuclear facilities. This selectivity was achieved through detailed fingerprinting of target systems, including checks for specific hardware configurations, software versions, and even the physical layout of equipment. The geopolitical implications of Stuxnet's discovery were profound. The revelation that nation-states were developing and deploying cyber weapons capable of physical destruction raised fundamental questions about the nature of warfare in the digital age. Military strategists and policymakers grappled with the implications of a new domain of conflict where attacks could be launched anonymously across global networks. The attribution of Stuxnet to specific governments remained officially unconfirmed for years, but the evidence strongly pointed to a joint operation between the United States and Israel. The technical sophistication of the malware, the detailed knowledge of Iranian nuclear facilities, and the geopolitical context all suggested state-level involvement. The Bush and Obama administrations had both identified Iran's nuclear program as a critical threat, and the timeline of Stuxnet's development coincided with increasing international pressure on Iran. In 2013, Edward Snowden's revelations about NSA surveillance programs included references to American cyber operations that many interpreted as confirmation of U.S. involvement in Stuxnet. Similarly, Israeli officials, while never officially confirming their role, made statements that suggested pride in the operation's success. The lack of formal attribution became a defining characteristic of cyber warfare, the ability to conduct sophisticated attacks while maintaining plausible deniability. The technical analysis of Stuxnet continued for years after its discovery, with researchers uncovering new details about its operation and impact. The malware's code contained what appeared to be references to biblical passages and historical events, leading to speculation about the motivations and identity of its creators. Some researchers found evidence of multiple development teams working on different components of the malware, suggesting a large-scale coordinated effort. The impact of Stuxnet on Iran's nuclear program was severe and long-lasting. Beyond the immediate destruction of centrifuges, the attack created a climate of uncertainty and mistrust within Iran's nuclear establishment. Engineers and scientists questioned whether their equipment was reliable, whether their facilities were secure, and whether their work was being monitored by foreign intelligence services. The psychological warfare aspect of the attack may have been as important as its physical destruction. Iranian officials eventually acknowledged the significant impact of the cyber attack. In statements made months after Stuxnet's discovery, Iranian nuclear officials admitted that the malware had caused limited damage to their facilities, though they maintained that the overall nuclear program had not been substantially delayed. Later intelligence assessments suggested that the actual impact was much more severe than Iran publicly admitted. The discovery of Stuxnet also revealed the vulnerability of industrial control systems around the world. These systems, known as SCADA, supervisory control and data acquisition systems, had been designed for reliability and functionality rather than security. Many were never intended to be connected to external networks, but the realities of modern industrial operations had led to increasing connectivity. Stuxnet demonstrated that even air-gapped systems could be compromised through careful planning and execution. Versit. The cybersecurity industry responded to Stuxnet with a fundamental reassessment of industrial security. Companies that manufactured industrial control systems began implementing new security measures, including encryption, authentication, and intrusion detection systems. Government agencies established new programs to protect critical infrastructure from cyber threats. The Department of Homeland Security created the Industrial Control Systems Cyber Emergency Response Team, ICS-CERT, to coordinate responses to attacks on critical infrastructure. The international community struggled to develop appropriate responses to the new reality of cyber warfare. Traditional concepts of deterrence and retaliation were difficult to apply to cyber attacks that could be launched anonymously and with plausible deniability. The development of international law governing cyber warfare became a priority for many nations, but progress was slow and contentious. As the months passed, after Stuxnet's discovery, additional details emerged about the operation's scope and impact. Intelligence sources revealed that the malware had been part of a broader campaign known as Olympic Games, a code name for sustained cyber operations against Iran's nuclear program. The campaign had involved multiple phases and different attack vectors, with Stuxnet representing just one component of a larger strategy. The success of Stuxnet inspired other nation-states to develop their own cyber warfare capabilities. Intelligence agencies around the world began recruiting computer scientists and developing sophisticated malware for use against their adversaries. The era of cyber warfare had begun, with Stuxnet serving as both proof of concept and inspiration for future operations. The malware's impact extended beyond its immediate target. The nuclear industry worldwide began reassessing the security of their facilities in light of Stuxnet's capabilities. Nuclear regulatory agencies issued new guidance on cybersecurity, and nuclear facilities implemented enhanced monitoring and protection systems. The realization that computer code could potentially cause nuclear accidents or radiological releases led to unprecedented cooperation between cybersecurity experts and nuclear safety officials. The story of Stuxnet also highlighted the complex relationship between cybersecurity researchers and intelligence agencies. The researchers who analyzed the malware were essentially reverse engineering a classified intelligence operation, revealing methods and capabilities that governments preferred to keep secret. This created tension between the need for public awareness of cyber threats and the desire to protect operational security. As 2010 drew to a close, the full implications of Stuxnet were still being understood. The malware had demonstrated that cyber attacks could achieve strategic objectives that were previously the exclusive domain of military forces. It had shown that critical infrastructure could be vulnerable to remote attack, and that the line between cyberspace and physical reality was increasingly blurred. The legacy of Stuxnet extended far beyond its immediate impact on Iran's nuclear program. It marked the beginning of a new era in international relations, where cyberspace became a domain of conflict alongside land, sea, air, and space. The malware established precedents for cyber warfare that would influence military doctrine and international law for years to come. The technical innovations pioneered by Stuxnet influenced both offensive and defensive cybersecurity research. The malware's methods of propagation, evasion, and payload delivery became subjects of academic study and practical application. Defensive technologies were developed to detect and prevent similar attacks, while offensive capabilities were enhanced based on Stuxnet's successes. The human cost of Stuxnet was often overlooked in discussions of its technical achievements. Iranian nuclear scientists and engineers faced years of uncertainty and stress as they struggled to understand why their equipment was failing. Some reported feeling paranoid and demoralized, wondering if their work was being constantly monitored and sabotaged by foreign intelligence services. The revelation of Stuxnet also sparked debates about the ethics of cyber warfare. Critics argued that the attack on Iran's nuclear facilities represented a violation of international law and could have had catastrophic consequences if it had caused a nuclear accident. Supporters contended that the cyber attack was a more humane alternative to military action and had successfully prevented Iran from developing nuclear weapons. The intelligence operation that created Stuxnet required unprecedented cooperation between American and Israeli agencies. The joint development of the malware involved sharing sensitive intelligence, technical capabilities, and operational methods. This collaboration became a model for future cyber operations and demonstrated the importance of international partnerships in addressing cyber threats. The aftermath of Stuxnet's discovery saw increased investment in cybersecurity across all sectors of the economy. Companies that had previously viewed cybersecurity as an IT issue began to recognize it as a strategic business concern. Governments established new agencies and programs to protect critical infrastructure from cyber threats. The cybersecurity industry experienced rapid growth as demand for protective technologies and services increased. The story of Stuxnet continues to influence discussions about cyber warfare, international security, and the role of technology in modern conflict. It serves as a reminder that the digital age has created new vulnerabilities and new opportunities for those who seek to exploit them. The malware that was discovered on that summer day in 2010 changed the world forever, ushering in an era where computer code could be as powerful as conventional weapons. Today, more than a decade after its discovery, Stuxnet remains the most sophisticated cyber weapon ever publicly analyzed. Its legacy can be seen in the enhanced security measures protecting critical infrastructure, the international efforts to govern cyber warfare, and the ongoing arms race in cyberspace. The small antivirus company in Belarus that first identified the malware could never have imagined that their discovery would reshape the nature of international conflict and security. The technical details of Stuxnet continue to fascinate cybersecurity researchers and serve as a benchmark for measuring the sophistication of new threats. The malware's multi-stage attack chain, its use of multiple zero-day exploits, and its ability to cause physical damage while remaining undetected have influenced the development of both offensive and defensive cybersecurity technologies. The geopolitical ramifications of Stuxnet extended far beyond the immediate impact on Iran's nuclear program. The attack demonstrated that cyberspace had become a domain where nation-states could project power and achieve strategic objectives. It showed that critical infrastructure in any country could be vulnerable to remote attack, regardless of physical barriers or security measures. The discovery of Stuxnet also highlighted the importance of international cooperation in addressing cyber threats. The malware's global spread and its potential for causing widespread damage underscored the need for coordinated responses to cyber attacks. The incident helped establish frameworks for sharing threat intelligence and coordinating incident response across national boundaries. As we reflect on the story of Stuxnet, we are reminded that the digital age has brought both unprecedented opportunities and unprecedented risks. The same technologies that have revolutionized communication, commerce, and society have also created new vulnerabilities and new weapons. The malware that was designed to target Iran's nuclear facilities ultimately changed the world, demonstrating the power of code to reshape reality and the importance of cybersecurity in protecting our digital future. The legacy of Stuxnet serves as both a warning and an inspiration. It warns us of the potential for cyber attacks to cause real-world harm and disrupt critical infrastructure. It inspires us to develop better defenses, stronger international cooperation, and more thoughtful approaches to governing cyberspace. Most importantly, it reminds us that in an interconnected world, the security of one nation's critical infrastructure is ultimately connected to the security of all nations. The story that began with mysterious computer crashes in Belarus and ended with revelations about one of the most sophisticated intelligence operations in history continues to influence our understanding of security, warfare, and technology. Stuxnet was more than just a computer virus. It was a harbinger of a new era in human conflict, where the battlefield exists, not just in physical space, but in the digital realm, that increasingly governs our daily lives. The story of Stuxnet took another dramatic turn on June 1st, 2012, when the New York Times published a groundbreaking investigative report that lifted the veil of secrecy surrounding the operation. The article, written by David Sanger, revealed that Stuxnet was part of a U.S. and Israeli intelligence operation named Operation Olympic Games, devised by the NSA under President George W. Bush and executed under President Barack Obama. The revelation sent shockwaves through the international community and confirmed what many cybersecurity experts had long suspected about the attack's origins. The New York Times report provided unprecedented insight into the inner workings of the most sophisticated cyber operation in history. According to the article, Olympic Games was started under the administration of George W. Bush in 2006 and was accelerated under President Obama, who heeded Bush's advice to continue cyber attacks on the Iranian nuclear facility at Natanz. The operation represented a new paradigm in American foreign policy, where cyber weapons were being deployed as alternatives to traditional military strikes. The strategic rationale behind Operation Olympic Games was both elegant and pragmatic. The use of the cyber weapon was supposed to make the Iranians think that their engineers were incapable of running an enrichment facility, according to officials involved in the operation. The psychological warfare aspect was as important as the physical damage, with one participant explaining that the idea was to string it out as long as possible, creating ongoing uncertainty and doubt within Iran's nuclear establishment. The revelations about Operation Olympic Games came at a significant political cost. The leak of classified information about the cyber operation created a major scandal within the Obama administration, as officials struggled to identify who had disclosed details about one of America's most sensitive intelligence programs. The investigation into the leak would continue for years, ultimately resulting in criminal charges against high-ranking military officials who had served as sources for the Times article. The broader implications of the Olympic Games revelation extended far beyond the immediate political fallout. The confirmation that the United States had developed and deployed sophisticated cyber weapons raised fundamental questions about the rules of engagement in cyberspace. Traditional concepts of sovereignty, proportionality, and escalation needed to be reconsidered in light of weapons that could cross international borders instantaneously and cause physical damage without traditional military deployment. The international response to the Olympic Games revelation was swift and varied. Allies of the United States expressed both admiration for the technical achievement and concern about the precedent it set for cyber warfare. Adversaries used the revelation to justify their own cyber weapons programs, arguing that the United States had opened a new front in international conflict. The revelation also prompted renewed discussions about the need for international agreements governing cyber warfare, similar to existing treaties covering conventional weapons. Iran's official response to the Olympic Games revelation was predictably harsh. Iranian officials condemned the cyber attack as an act of war and promised retaliation against American interests. Iran replaced the damaged machines and has continued to enrich uranium, but the psychological impact of the attack continued to reverberate through the country's nuclear program. The revelation also confirmed Iranian suspicions that any action destabilizing its government or nuclear program is the work of the United States, Israel, or Britain, or some combination. The technical details revealed in the Olympic Games disclosure provided new insights into the scale and sophistication of the operation. The cyber weapon had been under development for years, with multiple versions deployed as the attackers refined their techniques and adapted to changing conditions at the target facilities. The operation involved extensive intelligence gathering, including detailed knowledge of the physical layout of Iranian nuclear facilities and the specific industrial control systems they used. The human cost of the Olympic Games operation extended beyond its Iranian targets. The development and deployment of Stuxnet required the participation of hundreds of American and Israeli intelligence officers, computer scientists, and military personnel. These individuals worked in extraordinary secrecy for years, developing capabilities that would reshape the nature of international conflict. The revelation of their work brought both recognition of their technical achievements and scrutiny of the ethical implications of their actions. The leak investigation that followed the Olympic Games revelation highlighted the tension between national security and press freedom in the digital age. The Obama administration launched an aggressive investigation to identify the sources of the leak, ultimately focusing on high-ranking military officials who had access to classified information about the operation. The investigation raised questions about the balance between protecting operational security and informing the public about government activities conducted in their name. On October 17, 2016, the leak investigation reached its conclusion when retired General James Cartwright, who had served as vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, pleaded guilty to making false statements to FBI investigators about his conversations with reporters regarding the Stuxnet operation. Cartwright served as a key source for New York Times reporter David Sanger's revelations about the Stuxnet computer virus used to attack Iran's nuclear program beginning in 2009. The conviction of such a high-ranking military officer underscored the seriousness with which the government viewed unauthorized disclosures about cyber operations. The Cartwright case also revealed the complex dynamics within the Obama administration regarding cyber warfare. As vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Cartwright had been one of the primary advocates for cyber operations within the military establishment. His decision to speak with reporters about the Stuxnet operation may have been motivated by a desire to demonstrate American capabilities and deter potential adversaries, but it also violated strict protocols governing the handling of classified information. The aftermath of the Olympic Games revelation continued to influence American cyber policy for years. The operation's success demonstrated the potential of cyber weapons to achieve strategic objectives without traditional military deployment, leading to increased investment in offensive cyber capabilities. However, the controversy surrounding the leak also highlighted the challenges of conducting covert cyber operations in an era of global connectivity and investigative journalism. The international cybersecurity community responded to the Olympic Games revelation with a mixture of fascination and concern. Cybersecurity researchers who had analyzed Stuxnet found their technical assessments validated by the official confirmation of government involvement. The revelation also provided new insights into the resources and expertise required to develop sophisticated cyber weapons, helping to inform debates about attribution and capability assessment in cyberspace. The revelation of Operation Olympic Games also had significant implications for the private sector companies that manufacture industrial control systems. The attack on Iran's nuclear facilities using Siemens equipment highlighted the vulnerability of critical infrastructure to cyber attacks, leading to increased investment in security measures and closer cooperation between manufacturers and government agencies. The incident also prompted new regulations and standards for cybersecurity in critical infrastructure sectors. The educational and academic communities responded to the Olympic Games revelation with increased interest in cyber warfare studies. Universities began offering courses on cyber conflict, established programs to study the implications of cyber weapons for international security. The Stuxnet operation became a case study in military academies and policy schools around the world, influencing a new generation of strategists and policymakers. The revelation also had profound implications for the intelligence community's approach to cyber operations. The success of Olympic Games led to increased investment in cyber capabilities across multiple agencies, but the controversy surrounding the leak also highlighted the need for better security protocols and clearer guidelines for discussing classified cyber operations. The incident prompted a comprehensive review of information security practices within the intelligence community. The long-term strategic implications of Operation Olympic Games extended far beyond its immediate impact on Iran's nuclear program. The operation demonstrated that cyber weapons could be used to achieve strategic objectives that were previously the exclusive domain of conventional military forces. This realization led to fundamental changes in military doctrine, with cyber warfare becoming a recognized domain of conflict alongside land, sea, air, and space. The success of Olympic Games also influenced the development of international law governing cyber warfare. Legal scholars and policymakers struggled to apply traditional concepts of armed conflict to cyber operations that could cause physical damage without traditional military deployment. The operation raised questions about the threshold for armed conflict in cyberspace and the applicability of existing international humanitarian law to cyber weapons. The revelation of Operation Olympic Games marked a watershed moment in public awareness of cyber warfare. Before the Olympic Games disclosure, cyber attacks were largely viewed as the domain of criminals and hackers. The revelation that nation-states were developing and deploying sophisticated cyber weapons for strategic purposes fundamentally changed public understanding of the cyber threat landscape. The impact of the Olympic Games revelation on deterrence theory was particularly significant. Traditional deterrence strategies relied on the threat of retaliation to prevent adversary actions. In cyberspace, the anonymity and deniability of attacks complicated traditional deterrence calculations. The Olympic Games operation demonstrated that cyber weapons could be used for preemptive strikes, potentially changing the dynamics of international conflict. The revelation also highlighted the importance of international cooperation in addressing cyber threats. The joint development of Stuxnet by American and Israeli intelligence agencies demonstrated that cyber operations required unprecedented levels of collaboration between allies. This cooperation became a model for future cyber operations and influenced the development of international partnerships in cybersecurity. The economic implications of the Olympic Games revelation were also significant. The operation demonstrated that cyber weapons could be used to disrupt adversary economic activities and critical infrastructure. This realization led to increased investment in cybersecurity across all sectors of the economy, as companies and governments recognized the potential for cyber attacks to cause significant economic damage. The Olympic Games revelation also had important implications for arms control and non-proliferation efforts. The operation demonstrated that cyber weapons could be used to disrupt adversary weapons programs, potentially providing alternatives to traditional military action. However, the proliferation of cyber weapons capabilities also raised concerns about the stability of international security arrangements and the need for new arms control frameworks. The psychological impact of the Olympic Games revelation extended beyond its immediate targets. The operation demonstrated that even the most secure facilities could be vulnerable to cyber attacks, creating a sense of vulnerability and uncertainty among operators of critical infrastructure worldwide. This psychological effect may have been as important as the physical damage caused by the attack. The revelation of Operation Olympic Games also influenced the development of cybersecurity technologies and practices. The technical innovations pioneered by Stuxnet became subjects of academic study and practical application, leading to advances in both offensive and defensive cybersecurity capabilities. The operation also highlighted the importance of air-gapped systems and the need for new approaches to protecting critical infrastructure. The cultural impact of the Olympic Games revelation was equally significant. The operation captured public imagination and influenced popular culture, with Stuxnet becoming a symbol of the power and potential danger of cyber weapons. The story of the operation has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and academic studies, helping to educate the public about the realities of cyber warfare. The revelation of Operation Olympic Games also had important implications for the relationship between government and industry in cybersecurity. The operation demonstrated that government agencies possessed sophisticated cyber capabilities that far exceeded those available to private sector organizations. This disparity led to increased cooperation between government and industry in developing cybersecurity technologies and responding to cyber threats. The Olympic Games revelation marked the beginning of a new era in international relations, where cyber capabilities became as important as traditional military forces in determining national power. The operation demonstrated that small teams of skilled computer scientists could achieve strategic objectives that previously required large military deployments, fundamentally changing the nature of international conflict. Today, more than a decade after the Olympic Games revelation, the operation continues to influence discussions about cyber warfare, international security, and the role of technology in modern conflict. The revelation that began with a leak to the New York Times on June 1, 2012, transformed public understanding of cyber warfare and established precedents that continue to shape international relations in the digital age. The story of Stuxnet and Operation Olympic Games serves as a reminder that the digital age has created new opportunities and new vulnerabilities for nations and individuals alike. The operation that began in the shadows of intelligence agencies and was revealed through investigative journalism continues to influence our understanding of security, warfare, and technology in an interconnected world. In the end, the discovery of Stuxnet on June 17, 2010, and the revelation of Operation Olympic Games on June 1, 2012, marked turning points in human history. They revealed that we had entered an age where computer code could be as destructive as conventional weapons, where attacks could be launched across oceans without warning, and where the line between peace and war had become increasingly blurred. The first cyberweapon had been unleashed, its secrets revealed, and the world would never be the same.